Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your host, Tad Cole, here with Your Voice Media. And today we're talking to the phenomenal, the veteran, the amazing Kenny
Mm,
Lattimore. And I
thank
have
you.
to just say, I grew up on you due to my mother is like just a big R&B fan.
Oh
R&B and
man, I
soul,
appreciate
okay?
it.
And
Yay, thanks, Mama.
yes, okay, thank you, Mama Lisa. I'll tell her you said that. And
Yeah.
she just really enriched, the essence of what R&B and soul is. And you were one of the names that she would
Wow.
always have on rotation. So we're going to
Wow.
talk
I
to you
appreciate
today.
it.
It's not only amazing for me, but when she sees this, she's going to be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, you are back with your 10th studio album, Here to Stay.
Yes.
And we all know that sometimes artists do not even get to a two or three.
Mm.
So, besides making great music, of course, what do you think has helped you continue to make timeless records and get to lucky number 10?
Well, I think it's about collaboration. I think it's about the people that I have surrounded myself with. I've surrounded myself with young producers and writers who have challenged me to step outside of sometimes my traditional thinking so that I'm evolving and I'm making music for the next generation.
Mm,
And my career began with some other creative minds like Michael Malden, who's Jermaine Dupri's dad. He was the president of Black Music when I first signed to Columbia Records, and he had a very clear vision about the types of music that the label should do.
yeah,
So I was a part of, I guess, the staple R&B at that time. But through the years, I've been really blessed because I've recorded for like probably 10 different major labels. And
mm,
when you're going from label to label as such, a lot of times it doesn't give you the foundation for a real career
yeah,
because you're constantly proving yourself to a label. You're constantly uh, it's reestablishing yourself. And if they are not as familiar with you, sometimes you have people telling you who you are, who you should be, and
exactly.
so it's really
In
difficult.
your ear
But
a little bit.
in your ear quite a bit. So then having relationships with great young producers and writers and continuing with people like Michael Malden as well,
Yeah,
it allowed me to have a balance in my ear so that I could remain consistent in it all.
I love that. Now, speaking of consistency, that's clearly the name of the game as you are continuing to soar in your career, okay? Now, because it is your 10th album, how special is this to you?
Mm. It's really special. It's in a way, it's a giving back project because Drakkar Madison Wesley is my main producer. He's like my Quincy Jones or
Mhm.
Jimmy and Terry, if you will,
Ooh.
from the way it used to be in the '80s. He was the main producer on this project, and I really did this as a way to expose him. I was about to do a Frank Sinatra, Nat
Right,
King
you were
Cole
telling
album.
another
Okay.
outlet that I hope we can still get that kind of album
Oh,
though.
yeah, I'm definitely going to do that still. But I didn't have any intentions of doing any contemporary music at this particular time. But in a conversation I was having with Madison, I realized that I could use my platform to elevate him.
Okay.
And I was like, why not? Let's do it. If anything, this will set a tone, and then maybe he can come out and I can help him to expose his artistry
Mm,
after this. So that's really how this all came about. And then this great partnership with SRG and Claude Villani came up. And it wasn't so, it wasn't calculated, far in advance.
yeah.
It really was about a conversation I had with Madison. And I said, okay, well, let me just make some calls and let's just see what happened. And then this happened.
That an amazing, amazing album. Now the
Thank you.
name Here to Stay. Why the
Mhm.
name?
I'd have to say, Here to Stay represents the commitment, commitment to singing love songs, commitment to this message because this message never goes out of style. It continues to evolve as we evolve. I mean,
Yeah.
you might have been 10 years old, uh, not you specifically, but a person may have been 10 years old and when For You came out, and now they're 35 or what have you, and they're in love now. It's this thing that happens as we mature and we grow. that love becomes the center and focus if it hasn't been in the past.
Right.
Some people right away it's been the center of the past, just like with your mom teaching you about R&B music. It's always been about romance, love, and relationships.
Yeah.
I think that message has been consistent. And then here to stay, I'm committed to the artistry. I still love it. You know, some people get jaded
Yeah.
because, oh, the business didn't treat me right, or this didn't happen for me the way I wanted to, and my vision didn't come to pass the way I want. Some artists are in that space and they get trapped there.
Yeah.
But I've always been
Discouraged a little
one,
bit.
or discouraged even. But and some people come to me and they say, you're unsung, or you're underrated, you should be whatever. But the one
Right.
thing that I try to tell other young artists about in terms of longevity is continue to keep your passion for the things you love,
I
and
love
don't
that.
let anything uh, sway that. Don't let the business be such that if it's not doing something, it's affecting you. There's so many things that happen when you make a commitment to being an artist or a celebrity. People talk about you, people make up stories, there's different people don't like you, whatever. But the
Their own
only thing,
reason.
yeah, for different reasons, because music is subjective.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful to make sure that we remain in control of how we respond or
Mm.
not respond.
Do you
Yeah.
like the term underrated? Like, how do you feel when you hear that word?
I know it's a compliment,
Mhm.
but it is a compliment that's so out of the control of the consumer.
Okay.
I think that overrated is that a big marketing machine is behind your gift. It's not
Yeah.
that you aren't gifted, it's not that you aren't amazing, but your exposure can be so overwhelming that it's like, okay, already.
Hmm.
Um, would I rather be overexposed than underexposed? I don't know. I don't know. I do like the fact that people respect what I do, and they've respected my journey. And I don't read all of the stuff that people say, but I have read through the years critiques of my music and career. And I've read some things that were just spot on. Like sometimes critics have said things about me and didn't realize they didn't really know I was going through some things. It's like, oh wow, they could tell that I was going through something from the music or my approach. They just don't know why, and they really don't know what's happening.
Okay.
But there are different things, and I can give you one example. I did an album called Timeless years ago, and it was after doing two duet CDs with Shantae. It was after my Arista debut. That was very difficult because I was changing labels again and again. Like I was telling you, when you change labels, there are different ideas about what you should be and what you shouldn't be. And
Yeah.
I had to find my voice again. And one of the best ways for me to find my voice again was to do the cover songs. And I
Mhm.
got heavily criticized for it. Oh my God, why is he doing another cover song? He's not going to be relevant anymore. He's not going to be this. He's not going to be that. But I needed that album for me. I
Mm.
needed to find my voice again using the tools of great musicians and singers like Marvin Gaye and Elton John and Jeff Buckley and Al Green, and then figure out, even if people don't think that I brought as much to the table, I don't know what, because everything again is subjective. I
Effective.
did it for me so that then I could eventually get to a point where I could do an album like Anatomy of a Love Song, where I
Mm.
was able to put my stamp production wise and singing wise on a complete project in a healthy space.
I was gonna ask that because now you have a little more free reign. When you're on with
Yes.
Bulls and you are under that contract, you don't
Yep.
really have that much say so. You kind of just
That,
go with
yeah.
what they tell you.
Yeah.
So now that you have more of the ability to have more decision making, what are some of the decisions you're able to make that you may have been limited to do when you first started out? Like, what is something you never
Wow.
had a chance to do, and now you're like, well, I'm in control now, so I can do this. Like, what was one
Well,
of those?
really choosing the producer or
Okay.
putting a head over. That's the first thing I did when I created Sincere Soul Records, because that's my imprint as an
Hmm.
independent, was to assign like a Quincy Jones kind of person to oversee.
Okay.
The first person I did that with was a guy named J.R. Hudson when I did Anatomy of a Love Song. And it made for a more cohesive album, even though I had other producers on the album. I had one person listening with me to say, this is what it should be. When I did Vulnerable, there were two people. It was Aaron Lindsay and the introduction of Drakkar Madison Wesley. And then for this one, it was Drakkar Madison Wesley. When I was able to choose more of a partner to create an album with, I think there was more success in the flow of it.
Right.
Because I come from the era where you took 14 producers and 14 songs, and you
You
did
make it
all
work.
these records, yeah, and you try to put it all together. You see what sticks against the wall. That wasn't always a good formula for me.
Okay. Now that you have more ability to do that and you have records that you personally love, out of all the records on this new album, what's a standout record for you that's really near dear to your heart?
Wow. Well, I'm going to say that the song that really pushed me out of my comfort zone is really dear to me because I never considered that it would be a single, and that's Lose You.
Okay.
I was experimenting with Lose You, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. I can do this. I wonder if I can flow like this, and can I? And is this going to be authentic? And the lyrics, I think, were amazing, but it was like, is my flow going to be believable?
Mm,
Am I going to be able to deliver? I like being
yeah.
pushed into places like that to see if I can deliver as a singer. So that song became very endeared to me. And then it took the genius of Claude Villani to even say, hey, this is a single. I
Okay.
mean, that's like a risk to take to me, just to push me again outside of what I would normally do and where people normally would hear me and say, this is the future.
Right.
This is the future of where you're going if you decide to continue to do contemporary music. So let's put it out there and let's test it and see what people think. And it's been very well received.
Okay, and since we're in the spirit of testing and experimenting, you mentioned in another interview that you want to record an album like Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra. So we're going to
Yeah.
step back a little bit. So what does that look like? Like, what
you
would
know,
that album look like for you?
it would really be very close to what they do with the live instrumentation, strings, horns, all of that.
Okay.
Every generation before me gave tribute to the generations before them.
Mm.
And you have Aretha Franklin singing jazz and Gladys Knight and singers like that doing American Songbook. Almost everybody touched on that. That was almost like a standard thing to do.
Right.
Um, some of the women have done it in my generation or in my group of peers, like Jill Scott, I think Deborah Cox, but
Mm-hmm.
none of the guys have done it. Maybe
Yeah.
Brian McKnight, but Brian McKnight precedes me a little bit. Even though he is considered a peer, he has more seniority on me. So I just thought, wow, I authentically come from this. I took voice lessons starting at 12 years old, from my mother discovering
Wow.
I could sing and singing in 9 different languages and, all kind of different things that people don't know until they come to my show. And when I do I do some of the American Songbook in my live show, and it goes over so huge that I'm like, okay, this is something that I have to give tribute to. Shaka Khan was one of the people who also told me, she said, you have to do a jazz album. She was one of my absolute favorites. She was like, you have to do a jazz record. It's something about putting your stamp into that world that's very special.
I love that. Now she did the verses a week
Yeah.
ago, Stephanie Mill. Are you into
Yeah.
that? Like, would you ever? And like, if you were asked to do so, is there anyone in mind that you would love to not go head to head with? I don't like using
I
that, but celebrate with.
Yeah, there's a celebration. Definitely is a celebration. I've been hearing other people talk about me and Eric Benet. They're like, you and Eric Benet should do it because we
Ooh,
come from the same era.
okay.
But I never really thought about it that much.
Hmm.
I enjoy the verses that I've seen, but I don't know. I've never put myself into that space. I think the verses are more for people who have just tons and tons of commercial hits,
Yeah.
where I have a few. I know sometimes people think I just have one for you, but no, between that and Never Too Busy and The Weekend, and I
You
have
have a
I have
couple.
3 top
Listen, don't
tens.
sleep on Ken Lattimore, y'all. He has a couple of classics, baby, that can pull out for a versus.
But
So
when I think of verses, I think verses are for people who have Billboard radio,
yeah,
like number ones or what have you, and you kind of you do some of your underground stuff, and then you do your number one hits from Billboard. Because I was not really celebrated with that machine behind me for that kind of radio airplay. I think that's why they consider me to be underrated,
yeah.
because some of the songs that I have that are even classics were not promoted at the same level as of other songs that could have been promoted to number one or what have you.
Well, that's why I'm glad we have this album because now you are in control.
Yes,
Now,
thank you.
speaking of in control of your career, you're also in a movie. So talk about
Ah, yeah.
that. You're in a new film. Let us know what
Yeah. Oh my
you're feeling
gosh, this
about
is
this film. Let us know.
I just did an appearance in a movie called Baby Girl,
Ooh.
and it is a very sensitive film that talks about sexual abuse, because we have kids that are being sexually abused and sex trafficked, or sexually trafficked all over the world. But a lot of the sex trafficking is happening right in our backyards and we don't even realize it. So a very good friend of mine, Don B. Welch, put together this movie, and I'm actually going to the premiere tonight. I haven't even seen myself yet, but I
Wow.
play a hotel clerk who initially goes in to discover. I'm sorry. It initially goes in to confront a patron just about a bill getting paid, but he begins to discover with his own eyes that something else might be going on.
Oh no.
So I get to see this tonight. It is a short film and is only for the film festivals and things at this particular time. And as it is celebrated, I could see it probably being on the Netflix and or ABFF, those other platforms for showcases. But it was purposely made for awareness, and it was purposely made for the short film
Now,
market.
speaking of awareness, now you are a vulnerable artist and you definitely shared even some of your past traumas that at one point
Mhm,
affected your relationship
mhm,
with your current wife, Myth Judge Faith Jenkins. You shared that on
mhm,
Tamron Hall. Now,
mhm.
what was the reaction you received from folks after that episode aired? And what do you
Wow.
hope people took away from it?
You know, the Tamron Hall interview and speaking about sexual abuse was a complete surprise. It was not that, because some people felt like, is she going too deep? No, the episode was about overcoming so that you can be healthy in your new relationship. So the takeaway that I wanted was for people to hear what my wife said in the end, which is none of what happened to me in the past has affected our relationship.
Yeah.
And that is the main thing. You can overcome sexual trauma, you can overcome past hurts and disappointments no matter what, to the point where you don't bring them into new relationships, but it takes work. And
Get there.
the work that it took for me was time.
Mm,
And even from divorce, I did not bring over residue that was detrimental. I mean, I think there's residue all the time that you
yeah.
bring over from one thing to another, but detrimental residue I did not bring over into my new marriage. I did the work to allow myself to heal and be whole, so
Mm,
that everything I could bring to her would be positive. So the Tamron Hall interview, I didn't even realize it was going to go in the direction it had, but she asked me what was the most vulnerable thing I had to talk to my wife about, something in that space, and that was it. I was like, wow, and it was so emotionally compacted because of
yeah.
me having a son. So I had
Watch
talked
the
about it
interview as
with
well.
Essence Magazine and on my Unsung. So, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did he also watch like when he watched that interview as well, like how, I'm sure proud he was.
Oh, well, you know what? He's in college now, so I'm not sure that he actually watched that, but it was a part of my Unsung that I
Mm,
did for TV One.
yeah.
And I did an interview with Essence Magazine years ago where I spoke about it for the first time. But when he was close to 5 years old, I didn't even realize that that was something I was carrying. But
Mm,
I realized that I was very protective, and I was, oh no, he can't go out here, he can't do this, he can't do that. And I had to loosen up on him a bit,
yeah,
because he wasn't me, and I couldn't make him me, and I didn't want to make him me because I was a survivor. I didn't want him to ever experience it.
yeah.
So, but I think that when I talked about on Unsung, he was proud. He was like, I didn't know this. Again, because there's been no residue that I brought over into my relationship, even uh, for fathering him. The
Mm,
only thing he could equate is that, oh, when he was little, he couldn't do this or that, you know.
yeah. Well, we
But that
all
was
think of
about it.
as kids, like, oh, my dad said I can't do this, or my mom
Right.
do that. But there's always meaning behind it.
Right.
Now, with KJ, so you have KJ with, former relationship you have with Shantae Moore. Now you both
Hmm.
are in newly amazing, thriving relationships, and both are now married. So,
Hmm.
how has that been for KJ, receiving that he has now a stepmom and a stepfather? And
Hmm.
was it like a conversation that you and Shantae may have had to have with him, or was it just smooth sailing?
Um, I don't know. I think that's a great question. I've never had that with him. I mean, I've talked with him about the transition. Okay, this is for me when I got married, because I don't think Shantae is married yet, but
She's with,
that's another whole thing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the only thing that I know happened for me with KJ is the night before I got married, he came into a room with some men, and they asked him, they said, you want to say anything to your dad? You know, because there were men that were coming in to affirm me,
Yeah.
men that I had known for years. And my son said, I've seen you go through a lot.
Mm,
And he said that he admired that. And I remember him saying something to the effect of, people say that I look like you and that I act like you. And he said, that's okay, because I want to be like you. And he said that he appreciated that I shielded him from the things that I shielded him from,
I love that.
because he didn't think that that was so great, you know, when he was going through it. But in the end, he appreciated, he understood why.
Mm,
I was on the floor because, I mean, just tears rolled down my face, because that was my true release, to know that I could get married and he was going to be okay.
yeah.
He has always been my greatest priority, and making sure that he was whole has always been at the center of everything. And when he affirmed me that night before I married Faith, I knew that I could, if you will. Like, it was almost like I didn't need his permission to get married, but it was nice having the endorsement from such a healthy and wonderful place. It was amazing.
I asked that because, I come from that kind of like product of environment. And my
Yes.
mom kind of said the same thing. She was like,
Yes.
it's not that I was really asking you per se for
Mhm.
permission,
Right.
because, she had to make it clear. But
Yeah.
what she said was,
Yeah.
she said, it's great that you and your older brother are like
Mhm.
happy,
Yeah.
when she entered into that new space for herself.
Yes.
Now, you are with Miss Judge Faith Jenkins, and she has a new
Yes.
book out, Sis Don't Settle, which is
Yeah.
on
Sister
shelves
said how to stay
right
smart in
now.
Madison Heart. Yeah.
Yes. So speaking of that, so as you just said the tagline, how did you choose to stay smart but open when it came to choosing Judge Faith Jenkins as your wife?
Staying open was about me being healthy, and knowing me, the years of work that I had to do to
Yeah.
make sure that I was okay was about making sure I liked Kenny. Do you like this guy, and what is he going to bring? Because I always look at marriage and relationships as a servant kind of
Mhm.
situation. It's not, I'm here to serve you in the relationship. I know that I'm going to get something wonderful back, but my first approach is to serve, is the service of marriage, and then after that, it's, what do we provide for one another. So it was the process of sometimes being alone,
Okay.
being quiet, remembering what it was like before anything else happened in my life, before marriage, before kids, before everything, and again, making sure that I like me.
Mm, I love that. It's the holiday season now. Are there any plans that you and her have that, trips, maybe like, or just staying at home relaxing? What do we have planned?
Yeah, we're going to be home this year because we did Thanksgiving with her family in
Oh, it's
Louisiana.
beautiful.
So we're going to be in the Los Angeles area. And Faith is a big Christmas lady. She loves some Christmas,
Okay.
and
Does she have
I do
tradition?
too. But she's more traditional. So it's going to be about the house being completely decorated, and maybe we'll
Mm,
have some people over and things like that. But yeah, we are just still starting to unravel what our traditions are going to be. But Christmas at home is definitely one of them,
okay.
and we'll have to see. The other thing that we do that's a tradition is vision boarding together at the top of the
Ooh.
year, so
Okay.
that when we get ready to go into that next year, we share with each other. And KJ has been a part of that as well. Last year we did that, and we shared, what do you want to see happen the next year, so that we're supporting one another with the things that we have envisioned.
What's one thing that you want to have happen for yourself for next year?
Next year, I want to do some real traditional touring. And what that looks like is me going from city to city, maybe in a bus, because when I'm on those buses, I sleep and I can sing. Oh
Okay.
man, something about being on the bus, and when I get off the
Ah,
bus, I can really sing.
okay.
Airplanes kind of dry me out. It takes the body a lot more
Hold on
effort to
you.
recover.
Mhm.
But I want to go and do my long form show. That is my goal, because a lot of the things we talked about, the Frank Sinatra stuff, the contemporary music, all that, I just want to roll it into one big show and make sure that I get to as many places around this world that I can go doing that long form show.
Ooh, I can't wait to see you on tour, Mr. Kenny.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, before I let you go, we're gonna play a
Hmm.
quick game. Okay, it's called
Hmm.
All In with Kenny
Okay.
Lattimore.
All in.
So we're taking your song titles from your upcoming album, and I turn them into some fun questions. Are you ready?
Okay. Okay. Because I was getting ready to
No.
say, I got a song called All In.
Oh yes,
But go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
inspired. Now, nothing on you. What is one thing you have that separates you from other musicians?
May not separate me, but is deep within me, is sincerity, sincere soul. That's the name of my label. So somewhere that sincerity is.
Okay. Never knew. One thing we never knew about Kenny Lattimore is
That I was definitely shy growing up, and music saved my life. It gave me value, so
okay.
that it made me shine in a way that I never thought I would.
Love that. What are you waiting for? Is there a goal that you have on your bucket list that you haven't fulfilled yet, and why haven't you done so?
Wow, I'm waiting to tour and see you. And this
I
COVID
love
thing
that.
is getting on my nerves, because that's what stood in the way.
Yes.
But yeah, and you know what I'm going to say, what am I waiting for? I'm waiting to not be underrated. I'm waiting to have my live platform at the very least invested in, so that I can present my music to you the way that I think it should always have been presented.
I love that. Take a dose. If anyone took a sip from the fountain of Kenny Lattimore, what superpower would they get?
Wow, they would get a dose of faith and perseverance. And yeah, that would be probably two of the greatest things that they would get from me, is faith and perseverance.
Love that. And for my last question, survive. The key to surviving this industry is
Passion, loving what you
Mm.
do no matter what.
I love that. Mr. Kenny Lattimore, thank you so much. You are
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you. I cannot wait for everyone to just hear your new album, the
I
10th studio
appreciate it.
album, Here to Stay, because you're here to stay with us. And I can't wait
Hey,
to see what you have coming up next, okay?
thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Kenny.